From Mamma Mia, welcome to The Spill, your daily pop culture fix. I'm Laura Brodnick.
And I'm Ksenia Lukic.
And on the show today, Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson have just kicked off the press tour for their new movie, and they're pulling out a bit of a familiar plot to distract us from their personal lives. Things have gone off the rails. We're going to get into that. Plus, Kristen Bell, as she is on the press tour for season 2 of Nobody Wants This, has put up a seemingly loving anniversary post to her husband, Dax Shepard, and the outrage and backlash around it have been very intense, so we're going to unpack that. But first,
what have we got? The season premiere of The Golden Bachelor.
Yes, The Golden Bachelor, after much hype and much waiting, premiered last night on Channel 9. And this is an interesting one because the Bachelor franchise, well, it still burns hot and bright all around the world. But in Australia, for many, many years, it was one of the number one reality shows and was very much an obsession worldwide for everyone who watched it.
It's definitely fallen out of the zeitgeist because, it was cancelled. No one was really enjoying it anymore, but now it's with a different network.
Yes, so it came to an end with Channel 10 a few years ago, and their last kind of try to get those ratings back was to bring 3 bachelors into the house.
Disaster.
But those men were all quite nondescript, and even though I was watching it for work, gun to my head, couldn't have told you their names, except one of them I think wanted to be an influencer. But apart from that, it was kind of a very forgettable season, and so this idea of how could you bring the Bachelor back was an interesting one until Channel 9 picked up on a franchise that had been wildly successful in the US when they launched it, which was the Golden Bachelor. So this idea of having a man, usually in his 60s, dating women in their 50s and 60s and kind of changing the narrative around.
I actually love this version of it because it kind of taps into the of older people. But not old people because they're only 60. They're not that old.
Yeah.
But it does tap into that, it's never too late to find love and, the hope of finding your person even, after you've already been married and divorced. It's just got a really nice idea to it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we saw in the US with Jerry. People are obsessed with him. Unfortunately, his marriage didn't work out. I saw he got married again the other day, so maybe he just needed the Kickstarter. But anyway, last night we were introduced to our new Golden Batch. His name is Barry Merton, but he's called Bear. He's 61 years old. He's an infrastructure engineer, and he has a really interesting story that I think pull people. And this is what you need. You need to come in with a story that's going to pull people in straight away. So he has 3 sons, and he very tragically lost his wife many years ago to brain cancer, and he talked about having to put everything in his life on hold after the passing of his true love and how that nearly broke him, and to look after his 3 sons. And he shared that story, and you could just see people around Australia tearing up. All of a sudden, everyone's on his side. They were very into the narrative. So when the 20 women came along that, hopefully he's going to fall in love with them, people were already very invested in this reinvention of a fairy tale.
I missed it last night. So I'm going to be asking you guys some questions about it because I don't know what happened. But the widower line is definitely, the widower storyline is definitely something that's going to make audiences very happy.
Yeah, and it really did. And there was every woman who came in had kind of her story to tell, which is a whole thing with The Batch. But I think why it had gotten tired is that a lot of people, when the franchise was with Channel 10, is that a lot of people then, when they saw how popular the show got and how popular the contestants got for it, everyone was coming with almost like an act. And so you didn't really have those real people, real stories. It didn't feel like there was any organic kind of moments. It was like everyone was coming in to see how many followers they could get. But you had these women coming and being like, I'm a grandmother of 5, or I've been divorced for this many years, or I, couldn't have children and now I'm just trying my luck to find a partner. You had all these beautiful stories. And I know our producer, Manisha, you watched it. You love love. It's your favorite thing in the whole world. As I was watching it last night, I was thinking, Manisha's crying.
I was getting a little misty. I'm actually not that much of a crier, but his story really got me.
Yeah.
The footage, the beautiful footage of his wife and their kids. It's almost like in a film where you cut to someone's partner's passed away and they've got all these home videos. It was really beautiful.
Yeah, and so you had a personal connection. So do you have any favourites of the women who came through? We did see some women go home last night, unfortunately, but in true Bachelor style fashion,
we don't know them.
They didn't get any screen time. So when they left, you're a bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah, sad for you, but So I think the top 3 contenders, and this could change for me week to week, but usually I'm right. I've got the winner in my top 3. Historically.
Yeah.
So my top 3 contenders are Jan. She got the first impression rose.
Yeah.
She's the one with the cool pixie cut. She's an age transformation coach. That's not a real job. I won't hold
Sorry,
that against her.
Mon, what is an age transformation coach?
I tried to find out, Ksenia. I don't know.
Okay.
I think it's some form of life coach. happy for her.
And she got the traditional wifey edit. You know how like they play the theme music. And can I say, I've seen many uncut clips of The Bachelor over the years because they send you the screeners. You can sometimes watch it before they add music, or at least they used to. And the music changes everything. So Jen was the one who got the twinkly fairy tale traditional wife music. So you know from the moment she arrived that she was going to be like a top contender.
I mean, did you guys watch that series Unreal where they kind of go behind the scenes of one of these types of shows?
Yeah.
Does it feel like that? Are they like planning out who is going to win this? Do you feel that?
No, I think Australian reality shows are a little less produced than American reality shows in that way. But I do think the fact that Jan got the first impression rose probably means she won't be the winner because that's too obvious.
They often don't show the winner. It's like when like with Georgia Love's season, she always says like it was Lee straight away for me, and you could see that in the real life footage, but they edited him out so much because they're like, no one's going to care if they know he's been picked from the start, so they can make it look like it's someone else.
Yeah, and also I love that they show the bit where she said she hasn't been attracted to a man in 25 years since her last husband.
I
was like,
that.
Well, I hope.
A lot of men are the worst.
I can't relate to that every day.
Yeah, I know.
The other two on my list were Kim, who I have a crush on. She's the first intruder. She's so cool. She does like motorsports. She's a doctor in the Navy. She's lived all over the world and also fit in having in all these kids. She's lost 2 husbands. She has a great story. They really connected over their grief, and she's just like a very cool chick. Her best friend is also one of the contestants, and I don't understand how they didn't know each other were going on. She's like, my bestie's here in the match, and I'm like, how do you keep that a secret?
Well, I know maybe they just didn't tell each other they applied. Also, you do hear stories of producers calling people the night before and being like, if you're in, there's going to be a car at 5 a.m. there tomorrow. Like that sort of stuff happens.
Oh my God.
Is the magic of this that it's more earnest? Like the cast are more earnest and it feels more real?
I think they are quite earnest. I also think less people are probably on there for influencer fame, and it does give the vibe that genuinely some people are there looking for someone.
Yeah.
I also think Jeanette is a strong contender. She seems like she's the first arrival. First arrival's always really important. I felt they had a really good connection. So who do you think, Laura?
I mean, I thought from the moment I heard the twinkling music, it was Jan, but also I know that sometimes they do, do a bit of a sidestep. So I guess we'll have to see. And we've got a few women also coming in with like some interesting stories that are kind of linked to the public. So Laura is Abbie Chatfield's mum, very famously a Bachelor contestant who didn't win, but then went on to become super successful. And also Bianca Dice. Some people are like, I'm obsessed with this woman. Where did she come from? But she's been a radio host and TV personality for I think over 30 years.
Yeah, she's getting a bit of a cray-cray edit though.
I know,
it's not going well so far.
I know, but I think the only people who are reacting that way, and a lot of people were because maybe they're not used to like hearing her on the radio or seeing her on TV, or she's shared like so much of her life that I feel like she's almost coming in with the idea that the audience have known her for 30 years and so they might know a little bit. But there's a lot of different like interesting people in there. And there's also been a little bit of drama in the lead up because when they were filming the show and they started doing promo and they like Bear and then the host Samantha Armitage were walking the Logie's red carpet together and started doing press together, this wild rumor started that they were hooking up and the show was going to end with them together because Sam Armitage had separated from her husband Richard Lavender like previously, and and it just like really took off. So the whole time they're doing these press runs, Samantha Armitage has had to be saying like, no, I'm not dating the Bachelor. That's not the plot twist.
I mean, that would be pretty epic.
That would be really good TV.
I kind of want it to be true. I just don't think it is.
I would love that plot twist. Okay, one of my favorite things about The Bachelor is the entrances and some of the crazy entrances. Do we get any like really wild ones?
Yeah, we had some people doing a bit of a dance and like, but not as crazy as when it like got to like when the Bachelor ratings started really faltering and you had people coming in with like a full costume and like a skit prepared and like fire twirling and not and all that sort of stuff.
There was a horse.
There was a horse. That was fun.
And a poem.
Okay.
Yeah, had a poem and a dance. And one was really nervous, so he's like, take off your shoes and like, let's touch the sand.
Let's touch grass.
Oh my God.
I love that. I said, all I want is a man to tell me to touch grass.
Okay. It's that
so
easy.
One of the things I've been seeing though is that sort of Abbie Chatfield's mum being on there. Do we think Abbie Chatfield's mum's going to make it to like the home week so that they can do more time with Abbie.
We haven't had enough airtime of her yet.
Yeah, we haven't had enough. We do know that she's been catching up with a lot of contestants from the show. That's what Laura was saying about like what's happened afterwards. So I'm guessing she stays on for a while, enough time she's had to make friendships. But yeah, I don't know. We're only one episode in, but I've got a good feeling about this. I think it's going to be a good run for them.
I think everyone needs to get on this, and we need to get excited about it like we used to with The Bachelor.
Yeah.
And I used to throw finale parties.
Oh,
where
okay.
you could put
We'll do that.
Chocolate in a glass for who you thought was going to win. Like, we've got to do that.
Okay, we will. So we've been given a bit of a gift at the moment, which is the fact that Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson have teamed up for a new movie and they're on the press run for it. So the movie, which is coming out soon in Australia, is called Die My Love, and it's a new psychological black comedy drama. And in it, Jennifer Lawrence plays Grace. So she's a young mother who develops postpartum depression. And then Robert Pattinson plays her husband, Jackson, who also enters into a psychosis. So it's a bit of a dark subject matter, but these two love to have a little bit of a laugh on their press tours, and they've really been taking it to new levels this time around.
I feel like these two are such A-listers, but do we really know them? Are they kind of putting a bit of an act on?
Yeah, that's the thing. I guess there was so much excitement when they first walked a red carpet together at a film festival many months ago. And we have known for a while they are in the same friendship circle, but they've never had like lead roles in a movie like this together. And so there was a lot of anticipation for kind of how they would interact, or only starting to get a bit of a taste of it. So Jennifer Lawrence went on the Graham Norton show, and in typical Jennifer Lawrence style, she had like a whole story prepared about Robert. And she started talking about how she was at home with her girlfriends one night and they were watching Little Women and like having a fun time. And then she got a call from Robert that he had like wrapped working on something and he was nearby. So he showed up, and because they're really close friends, and she always says like he's one of the girls. He's down to gossip. He's down to hang when he's with us. She treats him both like a sister and a daughter, which I really love that dynamic for them. And so of course he knocked on the door and asked if she had any food. And this is what happened.
So he comes in and I give him a hug and he's like, "You have any food? I'm so hungry." And I'm like, yeah, come in. And then he goes to the bathroom and I do have food, but it's in the trash. And then so he eats it and we're all just kind of like watching him eat this trash. And then when he was finished, he was like, "I'm still hungry, is there more?" And I'm like, "Well, there is, but it's in the garbage." And he was like, "I don't mind." And then he was like, "Oh, get out of the trash," and kept eating it.
Oh my God.
I'm glad he knew it was out of the trash, because I'm like, what if he was hearing about this for the first time on the show and being like, I thought that pizza tasted weird.
It's so interesting to me that they're besties, because I've always found Robert Pattinson quite sardonic and sort of really like difficult, and not difficult, that's not the right word. I found him really sardonic and like sarcastic, and Jennifer Lawrence has always been such a fun-loving, like a bit of the goofy girl. So I'm interested that they're like besties.
Yeah, I feel like they do have a similar sense of humor, and they both have the same kind of shtick when it comes to press tours, is that they both don't like to talk about their personal lives. So they don't like to, I mean, Robert does a little bit because Suki Waterhouse, his partner and the mother of his child, is also famous, but they never really talk too much about their relationship. They don't talk about their children. So Jennifer's got 2 children now and Robert's got 1 child with Suki, and they don't like to talk about like past co-stars, scandals, or weigh in on anything like deep or political too much. Jennifer Lawrence a little bit. She did do a lot of political activism for a while, but I think when they're doing these little sound bites on a talk show, they want to keep it really light. So they always have these like crazy stories to roll out. So Jennifer will be like tell stories when she's on a press run about like being at an event and being ghosted by Jennifer Lawrence, or like falling down the stairs at something, or like getting trapped naked in a bathroom at work while filming X-Men, or like embarrassing herself in front of Harrison Ford and him not knowing who. Like she's always got these like stories prepped and ready to go.
It's very clever PR actually, because you come with this pre-prepared story, you know that the press are going to write on it, you know that there's going to be a headline on it, and no one's going to ask you about your relationship.
Yeah,
so it's very clever.
Yeah, exactly. And Robert's kind of the same. Like he also doesn't like to give any information about his personal life, which is fair enough. And I think he also, the other thing about Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson is that they've both been burned by really like distressing personal stories being like raked through these like media big firestorm. So like with Jennifer Lawrence, there's been like her relationship with famous people like Nicholas Hoult, but there was also that time all the photos were taken off her phone, all those naked photos that she was sending to Nicholas Hoult at the time, because they're in a long distance relationship, and she was talking about wanting to like keep their relationship alive, and then she got like shamed for having them on her phone, even though like the contents was stolen and uploaded to the public, which is like the most horrific thing you can go through. And then with Robert Pattinson, obviously he was in that relationship with Kristen Stewart for many, many years, and then those photos came out of her making out with her Snow White director, and those photos went everywhere, and then she publicly apologized to him. And for a couple that had tried to be so private and for that to blow up, like, he really didn't do a lot of press for a long time after that, and he's got a really sort of hard line about not talking about anything to do with that time. And so now he also has these crazy stories to bring out. Like, he'll be doing an interview and talk about how he smells like a crayon. Or there was that time, do you remember that GQ interview? I thought it was in 2022, when he was doing an interview, and he was trying to tell the interviewer, because he didn't want to talk about his personal life, that he was inventing a pasta that you could hold and eat out of your hands, because he thought that pasta should be a to-go food, like a piece of pizza, you should pick it up. And during the interview, he was trying to make his pasta invention, and the microwave exploded. And I do think to this day he rigged it, because after that, no one's talking about anything about him.
He was so famously negative and hated doing press during those Twilight years. And he was just really hated all the attention and being this like vampire. And it was such a moment in time. And then he kind of dropped off a little bit. But now he seems to have found a solution and a formula for how he needs to behave in interviews.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that Jennifer had that story ready to go, because even though they're both in long-term relationships with kids, when they first walked that red carpet together, a lot of people thought that they were potentially like, they had the potential to like fall in love, or there could be a scandal. And so I think also we're telling this story that she's kind of squashed it very quickly by sort of being like, he's a gal pal, he comes over, he eats out of the trash, he's just one of the gals. And now everyone's talking about that. And also, I think with the way that movie promotion is at the moment, I know we used to talk a lot about the fact that movie stars didn't need press anymore because now they have their huge followings. But the interesting thing is, like, neither Jennifer Lawrence or Robert Pattinson really have a social presence, even though they're super, super famous. And it's harder than ever to get people to watch movies, especially more like original movies like this. So now press tours are more important than ever before, but it's viral moments, not talking about the movie. So like there's the rubbish story doesn't really lead into a story about postpartum depression, but I'm sure people are going to go see it now because they're going to have these moments in their head.
But we've seen this with interviews now. PRs want us to play games now. And I know in these big talk shows like Jimmy Fallon and Graham Norton, we've got producers asking, the talent, okay, give us something. Like, what is a story that we can tell? What can we prompt you to do? They're pre-packaging it and making it. But it makes it interesting and fun, I think.
Yeah, like even a Taylor Swift is going on talk shows and having to like come up with these funny stories about like baking bread and Travis not knowing who Greta Gerwig is. So it's just the game. But I also think what's funny is that we're just at the very start of this press tour now with Jennifer Lawrence from Pattinson. So this is just the beginning. And I think we'll have many more of these like crazy viral stories. And I can't wait to see how far they take it. Like, how do you top an exploding microwave?
So Kristen Bell has caused a bit of a stir with her latest Instagram post celebrating her and Dax Shepard's 12th wedding anniversary. It kind of looked a little bit innocent on first glance. It's just a photo of, Kristen Bell straddling Dax, but it's not the photo that's the problem. It was the caption. So I'm going to read you the caption. Happy 12th anniversary to the man who once said to me, I would never kill you. A lot of men have killed their wives at a certain point. Even though I'm heavily incentivized to kill you, I never would. And this is what made people extremely upset. And people have been reacting to this and just talking about how it's a little bit inappropriate. But I think this is a very unexpected response for Kristen and Dax, because they have been this golden couple.
Yeah, they have built like a kind of huge following around their marriage, which to their credit, they've always tried to dissolve a little bit by saying that, marriage for us is like work every day. It's been really difficult. We've been together for over a decade now. Don't believe all the cutesy edits you see. But also they're so good in public together. They're so good walking red carpet together. They come across so like sweet and loving. They have all their jokes ready to go. They're so cute on their socials. And they do work a lot together. They've starred in a lot of movies together. They've created movies together. They do commercials together. And so they have become this kind of couple that people associate with like love and humor. So I think seeing that was jarring for two reasons. One is just like the word sort of kill and kill, all that sort of stuff through there. But also I think if you're a little bit outside of their little bubble that they live in, it just felt really jarring.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very different to what we were just talking about before with Robert and with Jennifer Lawrence. It's the complete opposite. And, you know, they are super public about their relationship. It really reminded me of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds because they were this golden couple. They were really public. Ryan was always posting these hilarious photos of Blake for her birthday. And then now people have kind of turned on them. That has been the reaction for this particular post. The main comment was that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the US. And I think it was particularly jarring for a lot of people in Australia because of what we have experienced with women and domestic violence. But you're right, it is really interesting because they're in this bubble and they probably don't quite have the awareness of what's going on outside of their A-lister lives.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, because as much as I found the caption a little bit jarring, I more found it jarring because I knew the reaction that was coming, which I do think is like very justified, people being upset by that language. But in a way, it kind of, not that I know this couple, I'm going to be really parasocial at the moment, but I feel with like Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard, I know more about their relationship than I do about like some of my friends' relationships because aside from like the red carpet acts that they do, they also have been on Dax Shepard's podcast Armchair Expert many, many times together. The very first episode of Armchair Expert is them essentially having a 2-hour fight about their relationship and essentially having like a marriage counseling session that they didn't mean to have. It just started that way because when she came into the room, they were kind of like, he was nervous and then she was like, are you trying to trick me? Then she couldn't get her headphones to work. It was a whole thing. And so the first time that we really had that insight to them, they aired all the difficulties of their marriage, how they talk to each other, and they've done many podcast episodes together since then where we know that at the start of their relationship, they used to fight a lot. It was very fiery because she was a very jealous person and he didn't feel like he wanted to be controlled by her. And he's like, you're not the person I pictured ever being with. I don't know how this is going to work. And they talk about like all the fights and they've had over the years and also like the way they talk to each other. And it is kind of like that caption on her Instagram post, I think encapsulated how this long-term couple talks to each other and how their circle of friends, because they always had their circle of friends on this podcast as well and weighing in. And so if you're in that world, it seemed very weirdly romantic because you're like, this is a couple that's been through so much and they've developed their own language and their own style of humor that we get to look at sometimes. So if you look at it through that lens, it's quite romantic. But if you look at it through the lens of like in Australia, intimate partner violence is very much on the rise. Over the last, like the data from like 2023, 2024 was like 1 woman killed every 8 days from intimate partner violence. The studies from 2023 and 2024 show that intimate partner violence in Australia and homicide, the rate is rapidly increasing and we know it's a huge issue here and people feel like it's not getting enough attention. So if you look at it through that lens, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, we also had, you know, Jill Maher was murdered 13 years ago last month. So that is also pretty fresh in people's mind. You know, that was a really big case in Melbourne and really affected Australians. So I definitely understand that. But I do also think that parasocial relationship that you're talking about with them, I think that's really normal because they do reveal so much. They kind of should expect to a point for people to feel that close with them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is when like the difference between like a podcast audience and a social audience is like that post from Kristen Bell then went on to be shared through all these different news outlets and people were reposting it. So you're having people see that without any context about their relationship or how they speak or anything like that. I know it sounds like I'm defending her. I'm kind of not. I just think like the context is important there.
Yeah.
But I understand being jarred again because I didn't think there was anything that Kristen Bell and Dax Shepard could say that would make me kind of stop in my tracks because I feel like I've just heard the craziest stuff from them over the years. And when I saw that, I think it was just so jarring because I think if one of my friends said that, even if I knew they were in a loving relationship, I'd still be like, oh, that's a really dark joke to make.
It's an odd thing to say for sure. And I really like Kristen Bell. I love Nobody Wants This and, you know, it's a great show and I really enjoy her, but it definitely did give me a bit of a, I paused and even the photo was a little bit strange. Someone wrote in the comments, I thought this was him with his daughter.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the thing. They have a wild height difference, and her, like, their 2 kids, like, nearly the same height as her now. But no, it wasn't the photo that upset me or anything like that. The other thing is too is like we keep having these conversations around how like people in the public eye can't say anything and everything's so policed, and everyone's become this very generic celebrity kind of brand because if they do post anything that's outside of like a very traditional style social media post, then we jump on them. So there's that to kind of consider as well. But I don't really know what the answer is to this. I don't know. I don't want her to take the post down or anything. And I think also like if she gets asked about on a red carpet, you can't really do it in a soundbite. And I think they have recently been taking a lot of content out of their podcast because they're so aware of how things can blow up. Like recently they did another podcast together and they were saying afterwards with their producer Monica Padman that they were happy to leave some of it in, but they had ended up taking quite a bit out because the conversation they were having is, would you rather your partner cheat on you or would you rather your kids drive drunk? And they were both like, I would so much rather you cheat on me. And they're like to both of, and they've always said over many years that cheating's not a big deal for either of them. And then they had to sort of say, but we haven't cheated on each other and we don't have an open relationship because everyone has thought in Hollywood they've had an open relationship. And you can see now they're already starting to like edit things out because that was like a bit of a long conversation. And so I wondered like from the conversation that went out and they said they cut most of it, how much else are they now having to like pull back from the world?
I think for me, it would be her acknowledging that this is something that has affected people and that it has triggered people. And maybe it wasn't the right time for her to post this, particularly given that it was October. I think if she acknowledges that and appreciates that people feel triggered by it, that is probably the best course of action.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it wasn't intentional. You can kind of see that. It's her trying to be funny. She's trying to be funny with her husband, but acknowledging when you're a public figure like that, you have to be able to take responsibility for what you're putting out into the world.
I think it's just a little showcase of what happens when you are in your own celebrity, not even celebrity, you're in celebrity and friendship bubble. I feel like potentially she might address it. She's not usually the type of person to sort of post like a big explain or anything like that. I wonder if it'll happen in a few weeks when she's somehow like on a podcast with like her best friend Monica or with Dax, her husband, or in that kind of context where she can sort of have a longer form conversation
something
around
that she
it.
can control as well.
Yeah.
In an environment that they can control, I would suspect that that's what they would do.
Yeah, and it's difficult also too because she's doing the Nobody Wants This season 2 press rounds at the moment, which means that she's going to be asked. So I'm sure someone will try and ask a question about it, but I don't think a red carpet's the place to really weigh in on that.
No, that PR is going to be pulling her away quick smart.
Yeah.